I think they're realizing that the wheels are coming off the bus.
Are affairs disqualifying? This one. Marital affairs.
To be clear, I think the Nazi tattoo is disqualifying. I think the idea that women are responsible for their own rapes is completely disqualifying, and he should be punched in the face. To be frank with you.
Another night, another MAGA meltdown on Abby Phillips' show, and this time Joe Borelli got himself stuck in a confusing argument where he kept trying to defend Republicans while attacking Democrats at the same time. We are going to watch clips from this panel on Abby Phillips' show that included Joe Borelli and other guests, and I will also share my thoughts on what they are saying, so let's go through it together.
Tonight, does scandal matter anymore in American politics? Senate races in Maine and in Texas suggest that voters are willing to overlook what was once seen as disqualifying. We're learning Democrat Graham Plattner reportedly shared sexually explicit messages with multiple women in the early days of his marriage. His wife flagged the text to a campaign aide last year as a potential liability for him. Plattner has faced significant controversy over a series of offensive online posts that he has since apologized for, and for a tattoo widely recognized as a Nazi symbol that he has since covered up. Meanwhile, in Texas, as Republicans accuse Democratic State Senator James Tallarico of being a vegan, the man Donald Trump is endorsing, Ken Paxton, has faced fraud charges, 16 articles of impeachment, accusing him of corruption and bribery and allegations of infidelity. Paxton's criminal charges ended in a pretrial agreement, and he was ultimately acquitted in his impeachment proceedings following a 2-week trial. Joe, let's start with you. You just wrote this about.
Joe. You know about bribery, corruption.
Not you, Joe. The other Joe.
Okay, which one?
This one.
Joe, let's go to you.
You wrote a book called Life of the Party, How the Democrats Lost America's Trust and How They Can Win It Back. What is your take on this Graham Plattner situation and the fact that Democrats are doing what I would argue maybe Republicans have been doing since 2016 and just saying, they're shrugging.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, right? And I'll withhold my comments about the Republican Party speaking from the high ground of moral clarity, which I don't believe that they do, considering the candidates that are running this cycle under the Republican banner. But I want to speak specifically to the Democratic Party. And look, because of last cycle and the ones leading up to, I think the bar for entry for the Democratic Party has been placed so low because we put it there. Democrats right now just want a candidate who can speak plain English and communicate to voters and be authentic and talk about issues that resonate with people, not, these obtuse issues like whether it be like, save democracy and so vague. They want actual things that can drive down the cost of price and make life affordable and just speak like a normal American and enter Graham Plattner, and so I think he's enjoyed a lot of that success, mainly as a Democrat because he doesn't sound like a Democrat. He doesn't look like a Democrat. And I think that says a lot about where the party currently is right now.
But is it a good thing or is it a bad thing?
Well,
because when you put the bar low, then anybody can jump over.
It needs a reset. It needs people, though, who can speak normally and not talk down to people and not talk at them or above them, but can communicate with voters. And then can speak to the issues themselves. And again, it's been reset, of course. But we're going through that process right now, considering everything the Democratic Party came through in 2024 with Biden and then Harris.
But I think we have lost the plot on authenticity. I think Graham Plattner is cosplaying working class. He wears it like a Halloween costume, and that has been placed on him by the same people who have run a lot of progressive candidates across the nation. In this pursuit of getting to know the everyman, we keep picking these people who I think show the worst parts of society. If I am to believe that Graham Plattner can relate to everyday Americans, then that means I am to believe that everyday Americans are okay with Nazi tattoos because they get them accidentally when they're drunk, or because they served in the military, they have very regressive views on race and on gender. I just cannot accept the fact that to gain the working class, we have to dress up people who show the lowest of our values.
It does speak to how hungry Democrats are for new blood, though.
Thank you. Real anti-establishment people.
Governor Janet Mills is a very credible person. Governor Janet Mills is very credible, and she lost.
Right.
New leadership.
This is just
also someone under 50.
Voters have a say in this. And if you look at the numbers, Graham Plattner, he has only gotten more popular, since the controversy, since the tattoo, since all of it. That's a real thing. And then, down in Texas, where Ken Paxton was going up against John Cornyn, all of the dirt is out there on Ken Paxton. And I was looking at some favorability and unfavorability numbers for the two of them, Paxton and Cornyn. And voters are just as favorable toward Paxton as they are to Cornyn. They are not the same. But voters don't seem to care about the scandals.
Well, I would be very clear. They are not the same. Ken Paxton was acquitted at his trial in the Senate of the crimes he was accused of.
But his wife has accused him of things that has led her to seek a divorce on biblical grounds. So,
and I am sure we're going to hear. I'm sure we're going to hear all about it.
There's a lot of corruption, but there's a lot of personal issues too with him.
But just to be clear, on the corruption stuff, that he was impeached by the Texas House, he was acquitted by the Texas Senate. So I think we should be clear about that. That is not the same as someone who has exhibited a pattern over 20 years. I mean, it's not just the Nazi tattoo.
It's not just the Nazi.
It's the belief that women are responsible for their own. I mean, that's appalling and absurd. To have someone believe that women are somehow responsible for being, to have people who obviously, sexually message that they're women while they're married, like these are all bad things, and they just keep getting worse with Graham Plattner. And I think Democrats, as you've seen, a couple of them make pretty strong statements against him. I think they're realizing that the wheels are coming off the bus.
Are affairs disqualifying? This one. Marital affairs.
To be clear, I think the Nazi tattoo is disqualifying. I think the idea that women are responsible for their own is completely disqualifying, and he should be punched in the face. To be frank with you, I mean that's an appalling thing to say. I think that's different from someone who's accused of bribery and was acquitted. I think that's someone who has issues with his wife that we're going to all hear. We are going to hear all about Ken Paxton's divorce as the trial, I believe, even starts while he's campaigning. It's going to be.
Republicans like Joe Belli think they have the moral high ground on all of this, but they don't. They don't really have the moral high ground because the leader of their party, Donald Trump, is seen as one of the most immoral politicians in the history of the United States. People say he is immoral in terms of his personal life and immoral in terms of his business dealings, and they also call him corrupt. There are also claims that he has taken advantage of the country in a way we have not really seen before during his time in office. So when they try to act like other people are being immoral or doing wrong things, it does not really sound convincing to many people. If we didn't have Donald Trump, who has done all the things Joe Belli is talking about and also said very controversial things, then this kind of criticism would probably carry more weight. But because of that, it often falls on deaf ears for a lot of people. Abby Phillips also points out that many viewers simply do not care about scandals in the same way anymore, and they are more focused on wanting a leader who can improve their daily lives. If something illegal is involved, that is a different matter, but issues like affairs are not something most people strongly care about today. The point being made is that Democrats are generally more consistent about not shaming others for personal relationship issues, while Republicans and MAGA supporters often use those kinds of attacks against Democrats, even while supporting Donald Trump, who has faced similar types of accusations himself.
Graham Plattner's scandal is over sexting with staffers. Let me just read. I have to read this statement because this is from his wife. His wife told CNN and reporters, I confided deeply personal details about my marriage to someone who I considered a friend. In the months since, I've had to watch as she spreads malicious gossip to anyone who would take her call. I trusted this person with the most private chapter of our lives, the early days of our marriage before any campaign was on our mind, and I'm deeply hurt by her betrayal and invasion of our privacy. I know who Graham is. I know the man that I married and the husband that he has been to me on the best and worst days of my life. That hasn't changed, and it won't. That is what his wife says. But the piece of this is that it's adding to many things. But our voters sort of just don't care about, I mean, and maybe I should go further back because, Donald Trump has cheated allegedly on his spouses before. He's been divorced several times. There was also Bill Clinton. Are we done with this stuff? Do personal mistakes not matter in politics?
Sadly, I mean, I'm nostalgic for a time when Bush getting a DUI or Obama smoking weed was shocking and led the news for a couple weeks. And sadly, I think we're at a point in American politics where it isn't disqualifying. And it's funny. I mean, I was kind of surprised to see the reaction from folks like Cory Booker now sort of raising questions about support for Graham Plattner in light of these affairs, because frankly, adultery and infidelity now seems so ubiquitous in American politics. So to me, that wasn't even the most shocking thing. I think Democrats, though, now are trying to backpedal a little bit because they realize it's this constant drip, drip, drip. It wasn't just the Totenkopf tattoo. It wasn't just the basically making fun of veterans for getting shot at. It wasn't the sexual acts in porta potties. It's continuing to drip, drip, drip. And so I think they're kind of aware that maybe they've made this Faustian bargain. And bear in mind, I think for so long they tried to say, we have the moral high ground because Donald Trump. That was their argument for everything. And so now they've somehow embraced somebody with a Nazi tattoo. I mean, it's kind of beyond the pale. Yeah. And I would also note too, but this is all in the name of getting out Susan Collins, who is the most moderate Republican in the Senate. It's a really tough situation for them to say, elect this guy with the Nazi tattoo to beat out Susan Collins.
Right. These personal and professional failings by both of these bad men are not disqualifying, but they might lose them the election. It might be enough, because not everyone cares that they're allegedly corrupt and allegedly taking bribe. It is a pattern with Paxton, by the way, a lot of different accusations. But some people do. And that could be the difference in these tight races. And they didn't have to choose these people who have these problematic records. And I'll just say one last thing. As someone, maybe the only tattooed person on the panel, that you know what your tattoo is, okay?
Yeah.
No, I have 2 tattoos. I know exactly what they mean, okay, because they're tattooed on my body. And if I got drunk and got something tattooed, I wouldn't keep it for 15 years without checking it out. You know, you could Google it now. You do a Google image. 15 years, 17 years later, I don't buy it. I think people know what their tattoos are. I'm here to tell you.
Now I want to know what your tattoos are.
No one's during the break. It's a different show.
Next for us.
Earlier in the segment, Abby Phillips pointed out that Republicans were even accusing Taller Rico of being a vegan, which is being treated like a criticism. But that kind of attack feels weak, because eating a certain type of food is not a crime or something negative. There is nothing wrong with being vegan. It is simply a personal choice. If that is the strongest criticism being used, then it does not really look like a strong political strategy, in my opinion. We will see how things go for Tal Rico in Texas, but that kind of argument does not seem very effective. Joe Cunningham also said that Democratic voters generally prefer politicians who feel real and authentic instead of overly scripted or overly political. That idea makes sense because many people are tired of politicians who feel fake or overly polished. He also mentioned Josh Shapiro as an example of a politician who can come across as very controlled and scripted in how he presents himself, even in the way he speaks publicly. There are Democrats out there who come across as authentic, like Bernie Sanders, who many people view as one of the most genuine voices in politics, even though he is older and not part of a newer generation. Some also point to figures like AOC and Ro Khanna as politicians who feel authentic to many supporters. So these examples do exist. But the point being made is that people are increasingly looking for authenticity in general, especially among Democrats and independents. At the same time, others argue that some voters are more willing to overlook controversies and focus instead on whoever they believe can deliver on their needs and priorities for the country. The question then becomes whether society has moved beyond traditional scandals, and whether people now mainly judge politicians based on results rather than behavior. Let me know what you think about what was discussed, and whether you believe politics has reached that point where scandals matter less than delivery. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.